For as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated by motorcycles. Not just any bikes, mind you, but vintage motorcycles from the 60s and 70s. Being a boy in that era, it was easy to recognize each make and model. Cycle World was my Bible, and cross-country riding was my ambition. My dreams were filled with thoughts of when I would be old enough to buy the bike of my dreams. My dream bike changed almost every time a new model arrived at the showroom floor. Triumph Bonneville, Norton Commando, and Harley Sportsters. As I got older, safety concerns from my parents put a temporary hold on my motorcycle ambitions. Detroit wasn't even producing the high-performance machines I craved anymore, focusing instead on more economical transportation. It was sad to see, but I took it like a man and cried my eyes out. In high school, I found a replacement for my fantasies, girls. The sleek curves that made my tongue hang out were no longer made of chrome and steel. They were living, breathing people. Some were adventurous, others more laid back, but each had their own appeal. While I was in college, I met someone special, a stunning Italian with a fiery personality and captivating presence. I had been intrigued by someone like her for years, but as with all new relationships, I overlooked the little challenges. There were some ups and downs, and she needed extra care at times, but when everything was going well, our connection was incredible. Sophia and I got married a year after we graduated. It was a big Italian family wedding with some crazy Irish relatives thrown in to keep things interesting. That probably explains the red-headed Italian cousins, I guess. As for me, I'm a typical California boy named Michael. It's been a pretty average life for Sophia and me. We worked hard to pay off the house and put our son through school. Sophia manages an Italian restaurant, and I work for a large fintech company in Silicon Valley. Our house is almost paid off, and our son Anthony is out of college and on his own now. Life's pressure should be easing up, but something seems to be going wrong in our marriage lately. We seem to be at odds with each other a lot these days. Sophia has always been passionate and sometimes quick-tempered, but lately, it feels like she's picking fights on purpose. It's like she's saying things just to provoke me, which isn't like her at all. And it's not just the arguments. There's been a change in our intimacy too. We used to enjoy spending time together, even just holding hands while watching a movie. Now it feels like she's avoiding me, like she doesn't want to be near me. I can't even remember the last time we really connected. We still have moments together, but there's a distance that wasn't there before. Sophia has been having trouble sleeping at night, though on weekends she'll sometimes sleep until late in the afternoon. Her eating habits have changed too. She barely touches her food. I've asked her to see a doctor, but she insists she's fine. When I told her I was worried, she just told me to leave it alone. Being the optimistic type, I kept telling myself things would work out if I didn't push too hard. I didn't want to give her any reason to get upset again. I decided to ride out the storm, hoping it would pass. Sophia has been the best thing that ever happened to me. She's my world. As we approached our 25th anniversary, I wanted to do something special for both of us. With more time and money now that our son was grown, I planned to rebuild a vintage motorcycle and take a couple of weeks to tour the country together. It would be a chance for us to reconnect. Working on the bike would also give me something to focus on away from the tension at home. I found a nice 1972 Triumph Bonneville for sale by an old friend, Ray, who had been a moto-head since high school and was a fantastic mechanic. He offered to help me with anything I couldn't handle myself. When I brought the motorcycle home, I thought Sophia would be excited, but she hated it from the moment it arrived. I had hoped to surprise her with the restored bike for our anniversary, but I couldn't tell her that just yet. She saw it as a waste of time and money, constantly criticizing me for working on it. "If you wanted a motorcycle, why didn't you just buy one?" she asked. "Sophia, this isn't just about a bike. It's something I've wanted since I was a kid." "Oh, so now you want to be a kid again? Is this some kind of midlife crisis or something?" "No, but why do you begrudge me this?" "It's something I want to do." "Well, you spend all of your time out here these days, and this has to be costing a fortune." "You mean like those $200 shoes that you've never even taken out of the box? How about the $800 dress you've never worn?" "That's different, and you know it." "Why is that different? Did you come out here just to start an argument? If you did, you're in the wrong place. Building this bike makes me happy, and God knows there's been precious little happiness around this house for the last few months. So just what the hell do you mean by that? You know exactly what I mean. I can't seem to do anything these days that pleases you. If anybody should be confused, it's me. I want to know where the woman I married went and who this person living in our house is now. Am I really that bad? To be honest, yes. I barely know who you are anymore. You're always upset for no reason, and it's like you started treating me with disdain. Her face softened, and she sighed. Mike, I'm sorry. I don't mean to treat you like that. It's just, I don't know why I'm doing it, she said, her voice trembling. Baby, I'm not saying these things to hurt you. I love you with all my heart. Do you think maybe we should see someone? Get some help. The look in her eyes told me I had probably gone too far. Michael, I'm not crazy. I'll be fine, she said softly, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek before walking back into the house. I knew then that things were far from over. She wouldn't just give up and let me win an argument that easily. Her heritage wouldn't allow it. After all these years, I knew when something wasn't truly resolved. Later that evening at dinner, the woman I married reappeared. It was wonderful to have her back, even if only for a few minutes. She sat with me, and we had a real conversation, reminiscing about some of the great times we'd shared. After dinner, we curled up together on the couch, and she leaned in close, softly kissing my neck and then gently brushing her lips up to my chin. Her hands found their way to the back of my head, and she kissed me tenderly. There was a surprising intensity in her kiss, and I responded, feeling a connection as my hands rested on her back. She pulled me closer, wrapping her arms around my neck. There was something both familiar and exciting in the way she leaned into me, and I could sense how much she was enjoying the moment. I gently kissed her neck, and the way she responded made me feel like we were reconnecting in a way we hadn't in a long time. The evening was full of tenderness and warmth, bringing back a glimpse of the closeness we once shared. As we sat together, I was reminded of the love that had drawn us together all those years ago. For the first time in what felt like ages, she fell asleep in my arms. It was a moment of peace, though I knew there would still be challenges ahead. After months of hard work, the Triumph was finally coming together. The engine was nearly done, and the bike looked stunning. I was planning to give it to her in time for our 25th anniversary. I spent the weekend working on the last few details, wiring, hoses, and final adjustments. By midweek, the Triumph was purring like a kitten. I was proud, hoping she would appreciate the love and effort I had poured into it, and maybe, just maybe, our relationship could be restored just like the motorcycle. Friday came, and I was excited about our anniversary the next day, but when I got home, there was a message from Sophia saying she'd be late. The evening was still early, so I decided to take the Triumph out for a test ride. The bike handled perfectly, responsive and smooth. I got on the freeway, only to hit a stretch of stalled traffic. The oil pressure was good, the temperature gauge showed 160 degrees, and everything seemed better than I could have imagined. While waiting in traffic, I glanced over at the car next to me. To my shock, the driver had a woman's head in his lap. I had to laugh at the absurdity of it all. People do the strangest things on the road. What would it even be like to have a moment of intimacy like that in broad daylight? It had been so long since anything like that had happened between Sophia and me. After a few more minutes, the scene in the next car seemed to reach its conclusion. The woman sat up and turned her head, and to my horror, it was Sophia. We locked eyes, both frozen in shock. Me at seeing her as the woman involved, and she at being caught in the act. We stared at each other until she turned her head away in panic and vomited on the dashboard. What the hell had just happened? This couldn't be real. It was some kind of sick hallucination. My eyes had to be playing tricks on me. Sophia wouldn't do this to me, would she? It would sure explain her attitude as of late. Goddamn her. I wanted to be home, and I wanted to be there right now. My foot hit the gas just as I jammed the gear shift and dumped the clutch. Luckily, I had been in the right lane, so I tore off down the shoulder to the next exit. The Triumph flew by the accident that had been holding up the traffic, and the road was clear ahead. I swerved back onto the pavement and opened up the throttle. I forgot about going home altogether. The bike had hit its stride at 90, and I kept pushing it faster. A couple of exits later, the highway patrol tried to chase me, but I floored the gas and pulled away from them. I wasn't even thinking at this point. By now, I was out of the city and passing cars on the open road. My jaws were clenched so tight my teeth hurt, and my knuckles were white from my death grip on the handlebars. Every once in a while, I would fly by another waiting patrol car, but the Triumph would leave them behind. It was apparent by now that I was in some pretty deep trouble, but it wouldn't be as bad as what I faced at home when I saw Sophia again. The anger rose in my throat like bile. I had never in my entire life experienced the rage I was now consumed with. My instinct was to lash out, to destroy, for the pain I was feeling. The adrenaline only served to fuel the fire inside me. One wrong move would put an end to it all. Should I? Could I? God, why? What had brought us to this? By this time, the tears in my eyes made it hard to see, and the rational part of me told me to pull over, or somebody was going to get hurt. My hand eased off the throttle, and the bike slowed, coasting to a stop at the side of the road. I sat there and waited for the cops. Why had I let this get out of hand? I had my license and insurance ready when they finally showed up. They cuffed me and took me to jail. I was allowed to call someone to post my bail, so I called Jason, my attorney. I was booked for public endangerment and evading a police officer. When Jason picked me up, the officer at the desk handed me a ticket for speeding and reckless driving. On the way home, I told Jason he should be prepared to file for divorce. I explained the whole situation to him, and he advised me not to do anything stupid that would be hard to undo later. I promised him I'd keep my head and only talk to Sophia. The anger that I had initially felt was left out on the highway. For the first time ever, I hoped that Sophia would not be there. I had never had to deal with this type of feeling before. Even when we were fighting, I had never dreaded seeing her. I was treading on new ground, so I prepared myself for the worst when I confronted her. She was sitting on the couch when I opened the door. She looked at me with fear in her eyes. It was plain to see that she had not slept the night before and had been crying. I walked past her to the kitchen without saying a word. It had been a long night in jail, and I needed some coffee. The pot was on, so I poured a cup and sat down at the table. Sophia was standing in the doorway, waiting for me to say something. "Do you want some?" I said, nodding to my cup. "No, I've had enough." "So, Sophia, how did we get to this place in our marriage?" "Mike, I never meant to do anything like this. It just happened." "What part do you mean just happened? The end of our marriage? The affair? What part, Sophia? Which part just happened?" I said, raising my voice. "All of it. I can't explain it to you. I don't know why myself. I don't buy that. Things have been going downhill for a long time now. You didn't wake up yesterday and decide to put an end to us, did you? Is it over now, Sophia?" I asked with as much control as I could manage. "Don't keep saying it's over, Mike. I love you. You have to give me a chance," she said, breaking down into tears. "A chance to do what, Sophia? What's next? The only thing you haven't done is say it's my fault. Is that next?" I couldn't look at her anymore right then. I went to the spare bedroom and closed the door. Sleep wouldn't come. My eyes were fixed on the ceiling. The white plaster was like a movie screen with a never-ending loop of Sophia with that other man. I wanted it to stop, but no matter how hard I tried, it wouldn't go away. God, what a wonderful way to spend your 25th anniversary, alone with a broken heart. After 2 hours of that endless mental torture, I got up and went to the kitchen for a drink. Sophia was still sitting at the table, though she seemed to be lost in her own world. She didn't move. It was as if she had been cast in stone. I wanted to scream at her in that moment, but oddly, out of pity and love, I wanted to hold her and comfort her at the same time. Were we both losing our minds? I gathered Sophia up into my arms and carried her to our bed. She clung to me like a frightened child, which is probably how she felt. I know I did. Laying Sophia softly on the bed, I tried to pull away from her embrace, but her arms were wrapped tightly around my neck. I didn't have the strength to push her away right then, so I let her hold me, crying into my shoulder. This was the closest we had been in weeks, and I fought the urge to run. The emotions inside me were tearing me apart. Sophia had been with another man and treated me like a stranger. I had stood by and let it happen. We should have faced this together, whatever it was. Why wouldn't she open up to me? Did she really not understand why things were falling apart? The only clear thought in my mind was that we couldn't continue like this. Whatever the outcome, anything would be better than the last few months. It was obvious to me that I still loved Sophia, but I didn't like who she had become. Thinking about the future while she held on to me, I considered my options. Divorce, that would be the easiest route. Just get out while I still could. Cut my losses and leave. But was that the answer? After 24 years together, I wasn't ready to forgive her, but we both deserved to understand what had gone wrong. I had never seen Sophia in this condition before. She had always been strong and confident, but now she seemed fragile. What kind of man would I be to walk away while she was like this? I wasn't a believer in counseling, but at this point, what did I have to lose? A few weeks or months of therapy might help me find some clarity, some sense of direction. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep with Sophia, still holding on to me, clinging like her life depended on it. I knew what I had decided, but what about her? Would she agree to counseling? Last time I had mentioned it, she had rejected the idea completely. I was pretty sure this was the end if she refused. But surprisingly, Sophia came to me with a similar plan. Mike, I can't even begin to tell you how sorry I am. I don't know what possessed me to treat you so badly. I know I don't deserve you, but I need your help more than ever. Yes, but you don't even know what I'm going to ask, I said. Okay, go ahead and ask, but I think I know where this is going, she replied. I had a lot of time to think about it. We need to see someone to get to the bottom of this. Do you mean it? She asked, a flicker of hope in her voice. I don't deserve it, but will you do that with me, Mike? Please, don't get the wrong idea. I'm not saying everything will be okay, but I won't give up, not until we understand what went wrong. That's all I could ever wish for, she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. Sophia, I need to know, who is he? How many times did you see him? I asked, my voice steady but firm. Please don't make me tell you about it, Michael. I just want to forget, she pleaded. If there's any chance for us, you need to be honest. If you start lying now, it's over. Mike, please. You've already gone to jail because of me. I won't lie, but I don't want you to get into more trouble. This isn't an option, Sophia. Tell me. It was my boss, Victor. He talked me into going to a hotel with him, and you saw what happened. If you say anything to him, I'll lose my job, she said, her voice trembling. Screw the job, Sophia. Do you really think I'd let you work there after this? I don't want you to contact him again. Ever. I'll take care of it. There are millions of jobs out there unless you think your job is more important than I am. If that's the case, I'll be gone in an hour. No, Mike, you're right. I wasn't even thinking. Of course. God, I wish none of this had happened, she whispered. Well, it did, and we can't go back, I said, walking away. I took a week off work. Jason, my lawyer, gave me the name of a marriage counselor he said was highly recommended. We had an appointment scheduled for Thursday. To Sophia's dismay, I moved into the guest bedroom. I couldn't be around her right now, not with all the anger still simmering beneath the surface. Now, don't think I'm some macho guy who goes around fighting people. That's not me. I entered Victor's office without making an appointment, though I didn't exactly storm in either. He wasn't shocked to see me, but the look on his face showed that he'd been anticipating this conversation for a while. I took a seat without waiting for an invitation. It wasn't his meeting, it was mine. Victor, you probably know why I'm here, so let's skip the formalities, I said. He leaned back, trying to appear confident. Then can you tell me why you've barged in here? Sophia won't be working here anymore. He raised an eyebrow. That's fine by me. Saves me the trouble of firing her. If you cut me a check for her severance, you can be on your way. Severance? You must be out of your mind. Not the first time someone said that, I replied, but I think it would be in your best interest to pay up. Say about $250,000. That should cover it. You're crazy, Victor retorted, his voice rising. I won't pay you a dime. She came on to me. Going to the hotel was her idea, not mine. Besides, it's her word against mine. You can't prove anything. Oh, and don't forget about what I saw in your car that day. Think your wife would appreciate hearing about that. You leave her out of this, he barked. She's got nothing to do with it. Then write the check, and we'll leave her in the dark. Trust me, you don't want this escalating. You really want Sophia's family involved. What does her family have to do with this? Victor snapped, his agitation showing. Oh, didn't you know? Sophia's family is very Italian and very well connected, if you catch my drift. Victor's face paled. You're full of... Okay. Don't say I didn't warn you. You've got until next Friday. If I were you, I'd make sure your life insurance is up to date. Get out of here. He spat as I left and I pulled out my phone and called Sophia's brother, Marco. He picked up right away. Marco's Pizza. Marco, it's Michael. I need a little favor. You busy? Always busy. But for you, I've got time. I'll be there in 10. Marco wasn't actually connected, but you'd never guess. We went over the plan. Marco and Sean, one of Sophia's Irish cousins, would pay Victor a little visit. Sean had a reputation for being a little wild, with his crazy red hair adding to the effect. I had to admit I was curious to see how Victor would react to these two showing up at his door. Later, I dropped by to see how the visit went. Marco and Sean were laughing over beers. Michael, you should have seen his face when we told him we were collecting donations for the Italian-American Relief Society. Marco chuckled. He wrote me a check for $500, I said, laughing. Nope, it's right here, Sean added, pulling out the check with a grin. Sophia was still keeping her distance, clearly regretful, but the pain between us was still raw. We were civil, but the trust was fractured. We needed help, and I had scheduled an appointment with a marriage counselor. The night before our session, Sophia and I worked quietly together on a questionnaire the counselor had given us. After a while, she pushed some papers toward me and whispered, "Thank you, Michael." For what? For everything, she said softly before heading to bed. I was thankful she didn't push for anything more. If she had tried to seduce me right then, I might have given in, but we both knew it wasn't the time for that. We needed to rebuild trust, not paper over the cracks. The next day, we met the counselor, Dr. Wilson, a big, burly man with white hair and a beard that made him look like a plus-size Santa Claus. I hoped I wouldn't have to sit on Dr. Wilson's lap. Sophia was nervous, but Dr. Wilson quickly put her at ease. He greeted us and laid out his expectations. Honesty is crucial. Don't try to protect each other's feelings. We need to get to the root issues, so the brutal truth must come out. Also, please avoid interrupting each other. You'll have your chance to speak, but for now, just listen. And don't expect quick fixes. This will take time. Be patient. Dr. Wilson turned to Sophia. So, Sophia, what do you want from our meeting? I want my life back. I want Michael to love me again, she said, struggling to hold back tears. Fair enough. Michael, how about you? I want to understand why Sophia has changed so much over the last 6 months. She's not the same person I've known for most of my life. That's a realistic expectation, Dr. Wilson said. But how do you envision this resolving at the end of our sessions? It depends on how things unfold. I'm not going to pretend I know what's going to happen, I admitted. Dr. Wilson nodded. I've studied both your profiles, but I want to hear from you. Are you committed to working through these problems, or are you here to resolve your own fears and doubts? Do you want to fix your marriage? Are you saying I'm not here for the right reasons? I asked, feeling defensive. No, not at all, Dr. Wilson said. From what I've gathered, Sophia wants to repair the marriage. What I'm getting from you is that you want to understand why it broke down, but I'm not seeing much about whether you want to fix things afterward. It felt like a slap in the face. Sophia spoke for most of the session, sharing her stress at work and home and mentioning her lack of libido and insomnia. Dr. Wilson took notes, and I felt like a spectator in a reality show. At the end of the session, Dr. Wilson handed Sophia a list of tests he wanted her to get done, suggesting a doctor. I left the meeting feeling disheartened. Dr. Wilson's focus on my part angered me. This wasn't my fault. I hadn't broken my vows. I was there to support Sophia, who needed help. Sophia left Dr. Wilson's office with hope, while I left with confusion. I decided to hit the road after the session. After reflecting on my night in jail earlier that week, I needed solitude. I decided to take a few days off and head to Reno, where the annual motorcycle rally was happening. The winding mountain roads provided a brief escape from my thoughts, the rhythm of the engine beneath me somehow soothing. I checked into a hotel downtown, surrounded by thousands of bikers from across the country. I should have been in heaven, but all I could think about was how Sophia had betrayed me. I walked through the crowds alone on Saturday night, feeling more isolated than ever despite the packed streets. Eventually, I found myself at the hotel bar, drinking whiskey as fast as the bartender could serve it. Feeling pathetic, a middle-aged man sitting alone at a bar while everyone else was having a good time. A few minutes later, I found that not everyone was enjoying themselves. Well, actually, she found me. I suppose that two people in the same mood among all this partying were bound to collide. She was every bit as drunk as I was, which was next to unconscious. We mostly stared at each other for the better part of an hour. "So, what's your story?" she slurred. "I really don't want to talk about it. How about you? Would you rather drink or talk?" "Talk." "Okay, shut up and order another round, and I'll talk." "Okay. I'm Michael," I said with no real conviction. "Heather," she said, holding out her hand. I shook it lightly. "You don't seem to be here for the party. Do you live around here?" "Yeah, for the next couple of days, anyway." "So, I've been sitting next to you trying to get you to pick me up for an hour. Are you gay?" The whiskey burned my nostrils as I had been drinking when she asked if I was gay. I almost choked. "What? Hell no, I'm not gay. I just wasn't looking for company right now." "Oh, problems with your wife?" "Something like that. But like I said before, I really don't want to talk about it." "Well, it looks like we're in the same boat. My husband has ignored me all goddamn day. First, it was golf, and now he's talking about motorcycles with some guy he doesn't even know. Well, screw him. He brought me here to have a good time. That's just what I intend to do, with or without him." Heather was about 10 years younger than I was. She was attractive and seemed very available. Without another word, she grabbed my arm and pulled me along. I guess I was drunk enough to just follow her. It didn't even register in my mind what was happening until we were in the elevator. She was all over me as we ascended to the 6th floor. I could hardly walk as she dragged me by the hand, rushing to her room. Unlike the original story, this time I didn't hesitate. As Heather fumbled with the key card, I felt a surge of anger and hurt from Sophia's betrayal. When we finally got inside, Heather pulled me to her, and I kissed her hard, almost punishingly, as if I could somehow transfer all my pain to this stranger. "My husband will be out all night," she whispered, pulling me toward the bed. The next few hours were a blur of desperate physical connection, not about pleasure, but about revenge. With every moment, I thought of Sophia with Victor, and it fueled my actions. This wasn't about Heather. It was about getting even. Afterward, as Heather slept beside me, the reality of what I'd done hit me. Not remorse. No, I felt justified. If Sophia could betray me, why shouldn't I do the same? But there was emptiness where I'd expected satisfaction. This hadn't fixed anything. I got dressed quietly and left before Heather woke up. Back in my own room, I showered for a long time, as if I could wash away the last 24 hours. The hot water beating down on me brought clarity. I didn't want this life. I didn't want revenge affairs or a marriage patched together with therapy and medications. I wanted peace. I called Jason from the road the next morning. "I want to file for divorce," I told him. "I've made up my mind." "Are you sure about this, Michael? You were going to try counseling." "We did. One session was enough. She has a medical condition, bipolar disorder. That's why she's been acting the way she has." "Well, that explains a lot. Maybe with treatment." "No, that explains her moods, her sleep problems, even her erratic behavior. But it doesn't excuse cheating. I can't live with someone I can't trust, Jason. I deserve better than wondering every time she's late if she's with someone else." "All right, I'll start the paperwork when you get back." When I returned home, Sophia was waiting with news of her own. "The doctor confirmed it," she said quietly. "Bipolar disorder. He's starting me on medication. Dr. Wilson thinks it explains everything. The mood swings, the impulsive behavior, even what happened with Victor." I looked at her, seeing hope in her eyes that I couldn't share. "I'm glad you have answers, Sophia. You deserve to feel better, to be healthy." "Does this change anything for us?" she asked hesitantly. "No," I said gently. "I've spoken with Jason. I want a divorce." Her face crumpled. "Mike, please. The doctor said I wasn't thinking clearly. It wasn't really me doing those things." "It doesn't matter. I can accept that your condition influenced your behavior, but I can't live with the memories. Every time I close my eyes, I see you with him. I can't build a future on that foundation. What about everything we've been through? 25 years. Anthony, our life together. I'll always care for you, Sophia. But some things can't be fixed, no matter how much we might want them to. 3 years later, I wiped the grease from my hands and stood back to admire the 1969 Norton Commando I'd just finished restoring. My shop, Second Chance Vintage Motorcycles, had been open for 2 years now, and business was thriving. After the divorce was finalized, I'd used my settlement and savings to open the shop I'd always dreamed of. Ray came on as my partner, bringing his mechanical expertise and loyal customer base. We specialized in restoring classic motorcycles from the 60s and 70s, turning neglected machines into works of art that rode like dreams. I lived in a small apartment above the shop, simple but comfortable. My life had a rhythm now: work, rides on the weekends, occasional dates that never seemed to go anywhere serious. I was content, if not exactly happy. Anthony had been angry at first, blaming me for abandoning his mother when she was sick. It had taken time, but we were rebuilding our relationship. He understood more now that he'd seen how Sophia had stabilized with proper treatment. The bell over the shop door jingled, and I looked up to see Marco coming in. "Michael, the bike looks incredible," he said, admiring the Norton. "Thanks. The owner's picking it up tomorrow. How's the restaurant?" Marco had opened his own Italian place after selling the pizza joint. "Business is good. That's actually why I'm here. We're having a grand opening for the new location next weekend. I want you to come." I hesitated, knowing who else would be there. "I don't know, Marco." "Sophia will be there," he acknowledged, "but she's doing really well. She's been on her medication consistently for over 2 years now. She's even dating someone, a teacher at Anthony's old high school." I nodded, surprised by the lack of jealousy I felt. "I'm glad she's doing better. So you'll come? It would mean a lot to me." "All right for you. But don't try to play matchmaker. That ship has sailed." After Marco left, I took the Norton out for a final test ride. As I cruised along the coastal highway, I thought about how much had changed. The pain had dulled to a distant ache. I no longer woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. The divorce had been difficult, but fair. Sophia got the house. I got my freedom. We'd sold her restaurant, splitting the proceeds. Victor had eventually been fired for sexual harassment of another employee. Karma comes for everyone eventually. The following weekend, I dressed carefully for Marco's grand opening. I spotted Sophia as soon as I walked in. She looked good, healthier than I'd seen her in years, with a glow that had been missing during those last difficult months of our marriage. I took a deep breath and approached her. "Hello, Sophia." Her eyes widened in surprise. "Michael, you came." There was an awkward moment before she added, "You look well." "So do you," I replied honestly. "Marco tells me you're doing better." She nodded. "The medication helps a lot. I've been stable for almost 2 years now." She hesitated, then said, "I heard about your motorcycle shop. I'm happy for you." A man approached, putting his arm around Sophia's waist. She introduced him as David, the high school math teacher she'd been dating for several months. He seemed like a decent guy, quiet, thoughtful, the opposite of her volatile ex-boss. I shook his hand and genuinely wished them well. As I mingled through the evening, I caught glimpses of Sophia laughing with her family, so different from the woman who had been spiraling out of control during our final year together. Part of me wondered if we could have made it work if she'd been diagnosed earlier, but another part knew the betrayal would have always stood between us. Marco cornered me by the bar later that night. "See? Not so bad, right?" "It's fine," I admitted. "She seems happy." "What about you, Michael? Are you happy?" I considered the question carefully. "I'm at peace. That's close enough for now." He clapped me on the shoulder. "You're a good man. You deserved better than what happened." "We all did," I said. "Even Sophia." 5 years after the divorce. The cross-country motorcycle tour had been my dream for decades, and at 53, I was finally doing it. 3 weeks, coast to coast, on a vintage Harley I'd restored myself. I'd closed the shop for a month, the first real vacation I'd taken since opening the business. I was halfway through my journey when I got the call from Anthony. "Dad, Mom's getting married," he said without preamble. I pulled my bike over at a rest stop in Colorado to take this in. To David? Yeah, in October. She wanted me to tell you before you heard it from someone else. That's great news, I said, and was surprised to find I meant it. He seems like a good guy. He is. He's been really good for her. She hasn't had a serious episode in years. After hanging up, I sat watching the sunset over the mountains. Sophia was moving forward with her life. Maybe it was time I did the same. In a small diner in Utah the next day, I struck up a conversation with a woman about my age who was traveling alone in an RV. Her name was Claire, a retired nurse from Oregon who had decided to see the country after her kids left for college. We ended up riding together for the next 2 days, enjoying the easy companionship of fellow travelers. We exchanged numbers when we parted ways in Nevada, with vague promises to stay in touch. I didn't think much would come of it, but she called a week after I returned home. I'm heading down the coast next month, she said. I thought I might stop by your shop. 6 months later, Claire moved her RV into my back lot permanently. She started helping around the shop, keeping the books and dealing with customers while Ray and I worked on the bikes. She fit into my life as if she'd always been there. When Claire suggested we drive down for Sophia and David's wedding, I was surprised. Are you sure that wouldn't be awkward? Only if we make it that way, she said with the pragmatism I'd come to appreciate. Anthony invited us both. It might be good closure. The ceremony was small and elegant. Sophia looked radiant, genuinely happy in a way that made me glad for her. At the reception, she found me at the bar. Thank you for coming, Michael. It means a lot to Anthony, and to me. I'm happy for you, Sophia. David's a lucky man. She smiled. And Claire seems wonderful. Are things serious? I glanced across the room, where Claire was chatting easily with Marco. Yeah, I think they are. Good. You deserve someone special. She hesitated. I know I've said this before, but I'm truly sorry for what happened between us. I know, but maybe things worked out the way they were supposed to. I raised my glass. To new beginnings. 10 years later. The call came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Anthony's voice was shaking. Dad, it's Mom. She had a stroke. It's bad. I closed the shop early and drove to the hospital with Claire. Sophia had been in the ICU for 2 days. David looked like he hadn't slept, pacing the waiting room. The doctors say she might not wake up. Anthony told me, his voice breaking. I stayed at the hospital that night, memories washing over me. Despite everything, Sophia had been my partner for most of my adult life, the mother of my child. We'd shared a quarter century together before it all fell apart. Now, seeing her lying there, those last difficult months seemed less significant against the backdrop of our shared history. Early the next morning, the monitors started beeping rapidly. I watched, helpless, as the medical team rushed in, but they couldn't save her. Sophia was gone. The funeral was held at the small Italian church where we'd been married 35 years earlier. So many of the same faces were there, now lined with age. I sat with Claire on one side of me and Anthony on the other, while David delivered a heartfelt eulogy. After the service, Marco approached me. You know, Michael, I've never told you this, but I always thought you did the right thing with the divorce. I looked at him in surprise. Don't get me wrong. I love my sister, God rest her soul. But what she did to you? There's illness, and then there's betrayal. You forgave the illness, but couldn't live with the betrayal. I respect that. I nodded, unable to speak around the lump in my throat. I know she never stopped loving you, even though she found happiness with David. Some bonds don't break completely. As we drove home from the funeral, Claire held my hand silently, understanding the complex emotions I was feeling. Do you regret it? She finally asked. The divorce? I thought carefully before answering. No. I couldn't have stayed and kept my self-respect. And if I had stayed, I never would have found you. I squeezed her hand. But I am grateful for the good years Sophia and I had together. They weren't a mistake just because the marriage ended badly. That night, I dreamed of Sophia as she had been when we first met, young, vibrant, full of life. In the dream, she smiled at me without sadness or regret, then turned and walked away toward a bright light. I woke feeling a sense of peace I hadn't expected. Life continues to surprise me. At 63, I'm semi-retired, though I still work on special restoration projects. Claire and I got married 5 years ago in a simple ceremony on the beach. Ray runs the shop now with my occasional input. Anthony named his daughter Sophia, which seemed fitting. I see much of her grandmother in the little girl's expressive eyes and determined personality. Last month, I finally finished restoring that old Triumph Bonneville, the one that was meant to be a 25th anniversary gift. I decided to give it to Anthony on his 35th birthday. He was speechless when I rolled it out of the garage. "This was originally for your mother," I told him, "for our anniversary, but I think she'd want you to have it now." As I watched him take the bike for its first ride, I reflected on the twisting road that had brought me here. Not the path I'd imagined, certainly, but one that ultimately led to peace. Sometimes the broken road takes you exactly where you need to go. I've learned that love doesn't always conquer all. Sometimes principles matter more.